you can say I have a lot of plates and spinning.
You do have a lot of plates spinning.
Plates spinning, and they're starting to crash around me.
No. Restarting the pod. I was going to use a little thing. Can't have it. Can't have you start negative. Can't have it.
Yes, this is how we start.
All right, then that's how we're starting. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Everything But the Scores with Danny Giles. My name is Danny Giles. Today is June 7th, 2022. I would like to start by saying to everybody who listens to this podcast who came out on Saturday night, thank you so much. What an exciting event. And now everybody came out. Everybody in this room came out. It was very lovely. Even Harper was mentioned on stage. And we will not talk about it anymore until it comes out. And so that's the beauty of average.
How good does it feel, though? Are you just like, is it like taking the biggest dump of your life?
It feels that way. I mean, it just feels like a little bit. It just feels like it's just insane with specials and comedy in general. The fact that you work on something for 2 years and then someone's like, all right, 2 shots. Like you get 2 takes at every one of these jokes and then you never get another take. And it's like that.
The Contender Series.
It really is. It really is like UFC's Contender Series, which was discussed ahead of time. But yes, it is. So it's like you really like you prepare, but then like even the night, like the Monday of the show, I did Ponchos, which is like one of my favorite shows in town. And I bombed very hard with a couple of the jokes. And I was like, I literally said on stage, glad we got this out of the way. But it was like my mind being like, all right, well, that's just not used. That would have been a not usable joke.
Wow.
So you get it out and you get it done.
So you well, not to talk about your special the whole time, but you were doing jokes. Like you were cutting things down towards the end, or did you have your set figured out?
Just running it. Just running it, and then there was a couple very. So one, just running it. Like you're just trying to run it because you get again 2 shots. So it's like, are we flubbing words? Are we even the slightest of flubs is an issue.
But you can retake it, and you did two shows. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but you
don't want to be the guy who let's reset because
and I mean, I tried to be very respectful. We had a long talk ahead of time of like, I don't want this to be a 5-hour shoot, which I've been a part of. Yes. We've been to tapings where it's like
I went to Dimitri Martin's show, Important Things. This was like years ago, and it was like a 6-hour taping. And I'm not to bag on Dimitri. I love the guy, and I'm sure it wasn't his fault, but it's just great. Like whatever it is, like
that's the standard way to do it.
They make you wait forever.
It's also like it's not to bag on Dimitri at all because that's the stand. Yes. That is how you're supposed to do it.
Right.
And we were like, I was like, I really think I can do it pretty well. I get 2 shows, and like come up and yell if I have to do something again, and like. But at the end, like let's ride the momentum. Let's keep this crowd like actually enjoying its show.
Dude, you nailed it. As an audience member, it was such a pleasurable experience. It didn't even feel like you were like at a taping because there was so little intrusion. There was so little mention of it. It was freaking flawless.
What show were you at?
Late show.
Late show, same. And it was so fun.
Dude.
The energy was fire.
Phenomenal.
It was a great time. Joining us, first off, and yes, and also subscribe, rate, comment. I'm going to skip all my normal things. Everybody's heard me. I feel like
smash the like button.
Smash that like button. God, I hate that. The smash the like button phrase I've really grown to hate as a thing. Noah Kopp for joining us off to the side.
Hello, good sir.
Hey, buddy. And then joining us this week, because sometimes we have a guest and sometimes we don't. We've had a guest every single time since the rebirth, but it's getting closer and closer as to when I book them, and that does appear concerning.
This was a "you're free tomorrow" situation.
This was a "you're free tomorrow" situation, but
you're done with breakfast.
But we had been texting, so I felt like it was, it sort of swung it into a hey, while I got you.
And by the way, I've been in LA for a year. I moved here a year ago. I don't think I've seen you in that time.
I know we've talked a lot.
We talked a lot.
I know we keep up with each other, but yes, so I was very excited.
I wanted to see you. I'm happy to make the trip to beautiful Sherman Oaks.
Beautiful Sherman Oaks. It really, I'm a big.
It is nice up here.
I'm a big Valley guy.
I was glad you're not like, Silver Lake. Like I was, because I'm on the west side. I'm down in Marina. Mm-hmm. So it's actually not that bad. 30 minutes.
Oh, right down the 405.
Yep. Easy peasy.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Little detour, drop somebody off. All good.
Our guest today, he was the host of HQ Trivia, one of the craziest rides I've ever watched to see a friend go through. Unparalleled. Second to none. I've never seen somebody go through anything like it, but you were the man behind HQ Trivia, the Quiz Daddy, and now you have a store in Santa Monica called Quiz Daddy's Closet. That is incredible. All sports vintage stuff. I am wearing one right now and I will say this, and those that know me know, I will very rarely wear anything that says the old name. But Scott got me this, and I said, I'm going to break I'm going to break my rule. Yeah, because I'm like, because but I was like,
You've
I'm gonna
evolved.
Well, it's a 92. I mean, this is
It's
so
92.
cool. This is so cool. This is what I grew up on. And ladies and gentlemen, that man is Scott Rogowsky.
Thank you so much. And yes, look, we can. I mean, you can take the show wherever you want, but this could be a topic for the show if you want it to be.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen,
I would like to talk about it.
we can get into it. Let's save it.
But let's save it. Let's
compartmentalize
I know you
it a
have.
little bit.
I know what it's like to roast a show. You've got your run a show, and I want you to take it.
Well, out of the gates, we like to start on you, and then we can get into my neurotic feelings about the name and my journey to understanding how it was. You are a big baseball guy. Did you play sports growing up?
Oh yeah, all of them. I was an early adopter to baseball, t-ball, as it were, back then. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are pictures of me in the crib with a bat and ball. Because my dad, it's not a conscious choice that I made as a toddler.
None of us do.
This was my father just completely smothering me with his baggage of being wanting to be an athlete.
Yep.
And he was. He played. He was a high school varsity athlete, baseball, basketball, and football. Triple letter.
Whoa. That is no joke.
Pretty good. But, football, he was like a kicker.
Yeah.
And they were not good at all. I think they
Sure.
were like 0-11. I mean, this is a horror. This is private school.
But with that said, I went to a public school with a terrible football team, and I did not play on the team. So, you're still on the team.
You're still on the team.
At the end of the day, there's competition.
And I think the story he tells me is that he got like a bloody nose, got a busted nose, started bleeding, and the coach just like plugged up some tissue paper and said, "Get back out there." Mm-hmm. And his dad, my grandfather, was not happy about that. And I think that might have been the last time he played football. I think my grandpa like yanked him. He's like, "You're not playing anymore."
Oh, that's ahead of his time.
Yeah.
That's very ahead of his time to be like, because that's sort of like the old school way was like,
of course,
just stay on the field. And
course.
now
1960s?
Now we're all like, what are you, out of your minds? Like, you're bleeding and your head hurts.
Right.
Get off the field.
Right. But my dad didn't have the killer instinct. That's what the coach said. You gotta have that killer instinct. Yeah. And he didn't have it. But in basketball, he was pretty good. He likes to tell a story about guarding Calvin Murphy. Was it Calvin? No, Calvin Hill. Oh. Calvin Hill. Grant Hill's dad.
I was going to say Grant Hill's dad, who is
also NBA player. Calvin Hill.
Grant Hill from my area growing up, so I knew all about the
Really?
Hills. Oh, Grant Hill was like the local, legend.
Local legend.
He was the guy.
Well, his dad grew up, I guess, in New York City or that area, and because he went to Riverdale, and my dad, Riverdale and Horace Mann were the two big rivals, and my dad would guard Calvin Hill, and he told me all these stories about it.
It's so crazy.
And he played baseball. He had a home run off the gym. He told me about that. So. He was a big athlete, played basketball at Rochester for 1 year. University of Rochester.
And if I may talk about Scott, your dad is a part of the show you used to do.
That's right.
And so I know your dad.
Yeah.
And I remember
Marty.
This is a very Marty.
Shout out Marty.
Shout out Marty. I remember that this is a very sweet conversation. You came out here and you were doing a show at the Virgil. Mm-hmm. And it was a great show, but it wasn't super well attended. The show I did.
Okay.
And I remember Marty and I were talking
Whose fault was that, Danny?
Oh, absolutely my fault. I should have been more on it.
It was a bringer. You didn't know?
I know. Listen, I remember that Ben Schwartz was on it. And I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that was Ben Schwartz, Lauren Lapkus.
Yeah, I was like, it was a packed show. I remember, and it was like, I remember someone actually messaged me like that day being like, dude, congrats on getting on this show. And then it was like, it was like full enough.
It was full enough.
Yeah. But I remember Marty, we had this conversation backstage. He's like, it's stressful. I just want Scott to do well. And I was like, I just said, I was like, look, I don't know much, but I know that Scott is really funny. And I tend to find that if you're really funny, things happen. I think 6 months later, HQ happened.
Yeah.
But I remember we had that conversation. I remember talking to him, and he was like, I'm a little nervous. I was like, don't be nervous. Like, trust him. Trust that your son is funny.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember that conversation.
That's really sweet. Listen, my dad is my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, and he was my biggest influence in everything. And sports was certainly one of those things. So, he had me playing baseball, and then I was doing basketball and soccer.
And how good did you end up getting?
Not very. Look, we're Jewish. It's a natural limitation. you know, and it's just like, yeah, you have your Hank Greenbergs.
You're a fairly
Your
tall
Al
Jew. You're a
Rosens.
fairly tall Jew, though.
I know, but you know, I'm not. Who's this kid at Yeshiva University? This basketball player. You know, about this guy?
I know who you're talking about. We have another every
few
5 years.
There's the
a
Jewish Jordan.
Jewish hope. Yeah,
Jewish
the Jewish Jordan was that was in my area.
That was your area too.
And then he went to the University of Maryland, and it was the whole. For those of you who don't know sports, there was this basketball player.
Tamir Goodman.
Tamir Goodman. God, you're so good with names. Tamir Goodman. And they called him the Jewish Jordan, and he was dominating.
And he literally wore like tefillin.
Part of him going to University of Maryland was he would not play on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Friday nights or Saturday. They would not, if they had games on those days, he would not play. And University of Maryland was like, we're willing to live with that. And then he showed up, and apparently, upon having to play against real basketball players, he was not quite as good as they thought he was.
The Jew ball league.
Yeah, apparently when he played outside of the Jew leagues, he struggled. And so I think he got cut after I think he got cut.
Really?
I think it was bad. I
thought he went to Israel and played out there probably.
Oh, they probably went to Israel immediately, but I don't think.
Yeah.
I think the University of Maryland thing died pretty quickly.
Daron Sheffer, another great Jewish basketball player from Israel, played UConn. You know, and then you got the Omri Caspi, and right, these guys.
Jordan Farmar, I believe, is a sneaky Jew.
Sneaky Jew, like a Drake.
We've had a couple sneaky Jews get into the NBA.
Right.
Amari Stoudemire, we got late. That was a late acquisition.
Right, that was a late convert. You know, that was like, you know, type 2 Judaism. What is it like?
I mean,
late onset.
I counted.
Late onset Judaism?
Oh yeah, it was a little late onset. I don't know what happened to him, but all of a sudden
he's into it.
Yeah, and I was like, please, we need you.
But there are a couple. There's a new guy in Yeshiva University, and there's someone named Jacob Steinmetz. Do you hear this guy got drafted last year? Not by the Mets, which I thought was a major mistake. How did the Mets not draft a Steinmetz?
And you know, it's such a good point.
He goes to the Diamondbacks, third round pick, like one of the highest drafted Jewish players ever.
Wow.
And he's apparently got a nasty split finger. He mixes up his pitches in ways that he doesn't mix up his milk and meat. Like he keeps those separated, but he'll definitely mix in a nice knuckle curve. So this kid could be good. I'm waiting for Max Fried, another good pitcher. There's some good ones in the major league.
We sneak in.
Euclid.
Yes. Oh, but baseball
does.
Baseball.
So I can't fully blame the Judaism. I'm trying to bring it back to me. Like, why wasn't I good enough? My eyes aren't great. I'm wearing contacts right now. Hand-eye coordination is everything in baseball. You got to see the ball.
Listen, you're talking to a guy who, my dream ended so quickly because my dad in the crib was basketball.
Okay.
That was the one. He was like, you're going to play basketball. And I've talked about some podcasts. It is difficult for people to see me now and be like, oh, you're like a shorter guy, to be like, no, I was the shortest kid in my grade.
Like always. You were always a short one.
Like I was
the runt of the grade.
I was a runt. So I could not. I mean, it was just
Two brothers?
Two younger sisters. But my oldest
tower over you.
Oh, tower. It's cartoonish.
Is it true?
Yes, so I have an Irish twin, Jessie, who is a year younger than me. She was a normal height. So she just height-wise normal, and she just towered over me. It looks like I was. I mean, everybody was like, "You're the only." I mean, it was crazy.
So we're okay with Irish twin, but what Redskins? No, gotta go.
Irish twin.
I just had to do it.
I am one. I'm allowed to say
I
it.
had to do it.
I know. I actually every time I say it, everyone's always like, "I think that's offensive," and I'm like, "Sure, it sounds
probably is."
Yeah, when you say it like that, it does sound rough.
But
now,
so basketball. Yeah, basketball was a sport I played too. Jew ball leagues.
Yeah, but basketball died.
But I was scrawny. I was like a 98-pound weakling.
Sure.
I was always a little tall, but very skinny.
Well, basketball
not a lot
also
of mass, narrow shoulders. Like.
Well, it's also, I think this is everybody's experience with basketball. Of like, I actually was pretty good for my height. And so at one point I made All-Stars, and I got to play like a little bit of like the travel game.
I never even did that. You got handled. You had some ball handling skills.
I had a shot. And I was very good. I knew where to be. But then that was the first time I went out of the everybody can play league and just for a hot second touched the select. Yeah. And I mean, it was over in seconds. It's just like, I was playing against.
Right.
I was playing against the easy. Oh, it was easy.
It was easy mode.
I didn't know that we were allowed to be this good.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and by the way, none of those kids ever went anywhere. So it's like,
exactly.
You hear these professional athletes describe just what it's like the day they go from college to the majors or whatever. And it's just like, oh no.
The winnowing of talent and just like, I mean, I think about like, I went to a Div 3 school, college, and I played baseball there for a year on the JV team. Okay, like so I was good enough for JV of Div 3. Div 3 team, our actually team went to the College World Series.
That's
So
not
these were, and a couple of them got drafted or signed. We had Orioles, Paul Winterling. He got to like AA with the Orioles.
Let's go.
And they got AAA with the Tigers. So, but that's like Div 3 college. And so think about, and those are like the best of the best in
Best
Div
of the
3. Then there's Div 1. There's a whole hundreds of schools.
And by the way, because what did you play?
First base.
Yeah, so you the first time you go up to bat against a Div 3 pitcher and they throw a pitch and you're like, oh well, that's surely the fastest anybody has ever thrown a baseball. Just went by me,
Right.
and it's like
Looking so silly.
like I've had somebody throw like 80ish at me once, and it was like, oh okay, well that's how would your brain even
it's
possibly
like the
make
ball's
contact?
in the glove before you even have a chance
It's
to
crazy.
like and then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you have like a whole step that you've been practicing.
I'm
and you're
like-
like, well, okay, the step's gone. Obviously, the step has to.
I'm still putting my batting glove on. And strike 3.
It's brutal.
It was, but it was great to be on it. I like being part of a team.
I think it's good for everybody to experience
I
team,
don't
and
like
I think it's
changing
very
the
good.
locker room, but
I also think
part of a team.
I also think particularly for Hollywood, I'm always like people who played sports just getting used to the premise of losing. I think is really good to have in you. Like so much of this is losing
Were
on
you a
it.
good loser? Or sort of?
Very good loser.
Yeah.
Well, it would hurt me afterwards. Still does.
Yeah.
The way I lose currently is I'm always like in the room. I'm like okay,
Yeah,
and then I go home,
you cry.
let it out. But like.
I love the story about you crying. By the way, that's fascinating too.
Yeah, that's true. We can't talk about it because it's on the thing. But yes,
Yeah.
that is 100% real. I have had a complicated relationship with crying, but now
But it's healthy. It's
One of
good.
my best
I need
friends.
to start crying more.
you're gonna love it. You feel so good.
COVID was a good time for crying. That was a good, got some good cries.
Bad time for podcasts. Good time for crying.
Yeah.
Now with that said, boy, oh boy, we could talk about crying all day. We could talk
Is it time
about.
for an act break, commercial break? What do we do?
It's actually time to start the show. Hit the music. Let's go.
You're a number one fan, so you know the stats. Heard all the pundits talking, so you know enough of that. Maybe it's time to hear some crazy folks chat about all the other stuff that's behind the net. But maybe you don't care about playing ball, and you want to hear the gossip whether big or small. Maybe it's time to hear some funny folks talk about what goes on when the batter don't walk. Maybe you'd like to hear a little more. Maybe you don't even care about sports. Either way, go on and buckle up your shorts. Cause this is everything but the scores with Danny Jollis. Yeah, doggity.
And we're back. I am a big Survivor fan. Die-hard Survivor fan. I think everybody.
Should be.
Yes.
So what is this particular piece of memorabilia on your wall right here? What is this
So
representing?
this is a buff.
buff.
When you get on Survivor, and by the way, I've said this many times, including to Jeff Probst's face, I've said this to him.
Really?
I've said I believe it is a sport. I think Survivor is a sport and should be counted as a sport. I think the people that are good at this game are genuinely good at this game, and they should get credit like as a sport.
Well, I remember there was one like soccer player, Israeli soccer player. Who
And
was on
side
Survivor.
note, Noah with a fantastic get up and move the camera so it could be caught on camera.
Ooh.
And that is what makes Noah.
That's what makes him an athlete. That was an athletic move behind the camera.
That's smart. That's mental game.
That's
mental game
seeing
right
the
there.
field, right? That's like court vision.
I think it should be counted as a sport. And so when you go, yes, I think they're incredible. There's been,
But some of these people are athletes, right? Former athletes,
yeah.
like
Oh, there's a bunch of. There was Jimmy Johnson was on a season.
Jimmy Johnson. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't quite call him an athlete, but
Well, you know,
talking about
in the
Johnson,
sports world,
the coach,
The coach,
not the race car driver.
not the race car driver.
Wow. Okay.
He was on. Who else? Oh, a very interesting person. And if you don't know sports, I don't have time to go into the full story, but John Rocker
was on Survivor.
was on a season of Survivor.
Was there like a
John
celebrity
Rocker-
Survivor? Or was this what the hell? They just put.
They'll put celebrities in
my
sometimes one or two people who are kind of known because it's interesting
He couldn't
because
survive the 7 train. He's going to survive an island in the Polynesia.
And for those of you who don't know sports, John Rocker was a baseball
Bigot,
player
a baseball bigot.
who a couple years into his career, like
He was good. He
it was
a
one of the
good pitcher.
first good pitcher, and then like I think it was one of the first times like I use this phrase a lot because it's a wrestling term, but I think it's one of the first times like I've seen somebody just turn heel
Yeah.
in like a day.
Yeah.
Like John Rocker went from like a baseball player who we didn't know much about. He seemed like an intense guy to in a day being like, well, I hate insert any group of people here.
Yeah.
He came out. I mean, it's black people, Latino, women.
Gay
It was
people.
just gay. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah.
And guess what happened to him on Survivor? Of course, somebody was like, that's John Rocker. One of the people on the show, because they don't tell him ahead of time. So he's like, I'm John. But then one of the guys was like, I know who that is. That's John Rocker. And he doesn't like gay people. He got kicked off fast.
So
They took him
really?
out.
Wow.
Well, because Survivor, the whole game is you're trying to, particularly early on, you're trying to find reasons to get anybody out. If somebody sneezes weird, you're like, we should get him out because you don't yet know anything.
You have to convince other strangers.
It's
to,
all
like,
about
it's
it's
like
all
Lord
mental.
of the Flies.
It is.
Right.
It's based Lord of the Flies. It's all a mental game.
Interesting.
And so,
I should
John
watch. I should give it a
did
shot. And they're like 48 seasons. This thing. I mean,
42
Where do I
seasons.
start?
I tell people like you can start around 20 and be fine because
It's better as it goes along. Are there certain seasons
Yes.
that are like just
season 42, the one that just happened, is one of the best
There's
seasons.
actually 42 seasons.
Actually, 42 seasons, and season 42 is one of the best seasons they've ever had.
Oh my god.
I for some reason thought this show was no longer on the air.
Not just is it still on the air, it couldn't be better. They update because it's a sport, and so much like a sport, and I said this to Jeff, I was like, the game has changed. When you watch the first season, we were watching it the other day, literally you see everyone on there and they're like, this guy Richard Hatch comes on.
Richard Hatch. I remember him. He's being famous for.
Yes, because he was the first winter survivor. And everybody's like, we're going to figure out how to survive, blah, blah. And Richard Hatch just literally looked at the camera and goes, well, I'm going to be your first winner because this is a mental game and I'm about to win. And he invented an alliance. That was his thing was, hey, 3 of us, vote together. We can make it to the end together.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We don't have to, who cares who moved logs? Like, let's just protect each other. He was the first one to do that. By season 10, everybody on the show is now watching the show. So everybody comes on being like, of course there's alliances. Then they start bringing in immunity idols. So by season 20, immunity idols, that's just a known thing. And now, I mean, the game is, there are 700 different types of advantages and moves and things and this and splitting votes and how do we flush an idol. I mean, it's the best.
Interesting. So it's almost like the Simpsons writers now who grew up watching the Simpsons.
Yes.
Like you have to, you have to take what you've learned and improve upon it.
And
or
everybody
change it.
and now the game and then they openly say like we want everybody on the show is a fan of Survivor.
Right.
Has watched every season. Like everybody it is a sport. It's a sport.
That's
it's
so
a
cool.
sport.
Sounds like you should get on the show.
It's the only reality show I would consider doing.
Yeah.
I've turned down a lot of stand up.
Celebrity wife swap.
I've turned down Celebrity Wife Swap, of course. Mainly because of Jess. Because I was
Like,
I
I'm not
couldn't.
married yet.
I could. Yeah, I'm not
I
yet.
turned out naked and afraid.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. How'd that come your way?
I got self-conscious.
too
A
afraid.
friend who was in like reality recommended. They were like, "You're kind of goofy. Do you want to be naked?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "No."
Yeah.
Naked and afraid.
Yeah. No, I got offered.
Love Island.
I've been offered like Last Comic and a couple other ones. There was one, I won't say the name of the show, that I was like, they were like, hey, it's this comedy competition. It's a comedy competition. And I was like, yeah, I don't do those. I don't do that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And they were like, they really want you. And I was like, okay, yeah, but I'm not going to do it. And then they called back in. They're like, they really want you. And I was like, okay, what, walk me through how it's going to work. And I literally like had multiple calls with producers where I was like, I'm not doing this unless it's going to be good for comedy. My issue with these shows is that it makes comedy a competition and it makes comedy about drama. And that's not what comedy is. Right. That's not, if you tell me you're not going to, Danny, we don't care about your backstory, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, for weeks, and I'm like, I literally am like sitting home just like, I guess I got to do this thing. Like I got it. Like, so finally after months, after weeks, and I had edited in the contract, like all these other things. I was like, all right, fine. And I finally agreed. And then 2 days later, they were like, cool, so they're not going to use you actually. And they just wanted to see who they could get. And I was like, and that's the last time I ever say I'll do anyone.
What?
Yeah. They just torched me for months of my life, me being like, I said I would never. But they do want me, like, I was just like, God.
America's Got Talent.
Just to torture me. I will not say the name of the show.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, those shows.
But it wasn't America's Got Talent.
No, but I think there's
The reason it was, I was like, oh, I guess we're
No,
just saying it now.
no.
But it is weird because I mean, with comedy specifically, you know, and even talent shows. I mean, how do you judge one talent is better than another talent, and especially
insane.
when there's people doing so many disparate things?
It's stupid.
Like acrobats and
It has to be stopped. Our first story is a follow up on the, and this is why Scott's the best guest, because it's going to take us a while to get to this story.
Yes.
But this story is worth it. If those of you who have been following the podcast know, there's been an epidemic of protesting during sporting events. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, during a basketball game, a woman attempted to glue herself to the court. A game later, a woman attempted to glue herself under the hoop.
where?
This is during playoff basketball games.
NBA?
NBA.
Glue?
Glue. Would you believe it wasn't super effective?
Was it like a super glue, a hot glue gun?
I think it was the hottest. I think it was as much of a super glue as you can, but they
Gorilla
still were,
Glue.
Yeah.
Sponsored?
But they still, I'm sure Gorilla Glue was like, well, I don't think Gorilla Glue loved it because pretty quickly they were able to just lift their hand up. And because, you know, that's not how glue works. So the one who did under the hoop, she actually like handcuffed herself.
What were they protesting?
This was about a chicken farm situation. And so then another one tried to run on, got hit by a security guard before she was able to get on. We followed this for a while. I mean, this has been a big part of the podcast. Has been following this thing.
I need to catch up.
Then, a couple weeks ago, don't know if you saw it, James Cromwell, an actor, glued himself to a Starbucks, non-sports related, but glued himself to a Starbucks counter because he didn't like that they were charging for vegan milk. While that is not a sports story, I did feel it was worth mentioning because it was, again, the glue thing.
I've never heard of this as a protest movement.
This is becoming...
Gluing. A gluing.
Gluing. They're gluing.
I think that's because it doesn't work.
It doesn't
So
work.
that's why it's not trending.
James
That's
Cromwell made it a
James
little...
Cromwell, the character. I'm
Yeah,
picturing
a
James
character
Cromwell.
actor.
Like in his 80s?
Yes. There's footage. It's just glued.
Didn't he play like FDR in something?
He's in
ton of stuff.
Succession. I mean, he's in like big shows.
Yeah. I love James Cromwell.
This past week, he struck again at the French Open this time. Another protest. And this one, and to credit it, is the first one I have seen that was actually kind of a problem. They actually, because all these have been useless. All these have been upwards of 30 seconds before completely removed. We've joked on this show about how, like, could you be more useless?
Right.
In a match between Marine Cilic and Casper Ruud, a woman ran on the court, glued herself to the net, but also tied herself to the net. And that caused an actual issue. They could not get her off for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, a French Open semifinals. This is one of the biggest tournaments in tennis. 15 minutes comes to a complete halt. Well, this lady glued herself with a shirt that said, "We have 1,028 days left," about climate change, which is a great cause.
1,028 days.
Which is
Later.
and what a movie that is.
Yeah, well, she's filming it clearly in the
Yeah, I
moment
mean,
here.
it's a long movie, but it's.
I'm all for this. Bringing attention to climate change, disrupting a tennis match.
As I've said, the chicken farm one was a great issue, and the Starbucks one was a little. But I was like, all right, charging for the vegan milk.
I mean, it is absurd that those places go, yes, you want oat, 75 cents extra. Like, is it really that much? Why?
Nickel and
it's
dime.
the sweet potato thing, too. Oh, you want to substitute regular fries for sweet potato
Sweet
fries?
potato fries. Why?
How are they more expensive?
Yep.
Are sweet potatoes really inherently more expensive than regular potatoes?
Maybe.
They can't. Maybe they can't be. They can't be that much more.
I would say, especially now with how popular that choice has gotten.
Oh, I
you're
love
telling
them.
me it's still that expensive.
You're telling me I can have French fries and I get to feel a little less guilty. That's everything I live my life around. Is the slightly less guilty choice. That's all I do. Everything I do.
Are they better for you?
I'm like, I won't do a burger. I'll do a turkey burger. I do that all day.
Yeah.
love turkey.
I'll do the sweet potato fries because they're orange.
Because I'm watching my figure.
But is it better? I don't think it's better.
No,
for
I don't
you.
think it's better at all.
It's just more colorful and sweeter. I like this. Prefer the taste of a sweet potato. But the point is, there shouldn't be a difference in price.
100%.
And I
It's
agree
a
with
fair,
the milk thing.
It's a fair criticism.
Chicken farms are bad, but climate change is the one issue that cuts through every other issue.
I agree with that.
Because
100%.
you know, whether it's gay rights, whether it's civil rights, whether it's anything, there are no gay people if there's no planet.
Yes.
There's no transgender. There's no
Well,
like.
it's also so factually happening. I think that's also a big part of it is
Yeah.
like, you know, it's like, it's hard to argue hate. It's hard to be like, don't hate. Like, it's all, it's like climate change is like, hey, you're literally denying like the thing. It just is what it is. Like, I don't know how else to like tell you what's
Right,
happening.
right.
Like, it just is happening.
It shouldn't be an issue. It's just
Right.
a fact.
It's how we solve it. I'm willing to have that debate because
Right.
that's interesting. And I
Right.
think, and I also, and I've said this before, I would respect a politician who came forward and just said, hey, look, I just don't care. I really think that like, in my research, because there are various researches of how soon it's really going to be like an issue. 1,028 days. Some would say, others have said years, others have
It's
said
already an issue. I mean, look at the
decades.
intensity of storms and droughts.
Some
and
people say
fires.
right now.
Yes.
So
we're seeing the effects.
But
of it
that
already.
debate I'm willing to have of how we don't think. But when they go out there and they're like, we're not sure. It's like, but we are sure.
Yeah.
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 We're sure.
We're absolutely sure. But that to me is so. Look, if you're gonna disrupt a tennis match over anything, I like this. So what? She tied herself.
Tied herself to the net. It was
Like-
both a glue. She did a glue stitch, but then she
Glue.
also meddled around the neck. First off, because you watched how quickly these NBA games
Yeah.
got these people out. I mean, it was the first time it happened when the woman glued herself. The announcers literally couldn't figure out what happened. They were like, a woman fell. That was how the thing started. It was like, a woman fell over there. We're like, and then they had like cut to like a sideline report, and she was like, she actually attempted to glue herself, and
What
it
is
was.
the gluing thing. I've never heard of this.
I know it. I never heard of it
This is
until
like
it
a
happened.
TikTok trend.
TikTok
channel?
Isn't it true? Everything you don't know about in 2022, I'm like, it's something happening
Yeah,
on TikTok,
TikTok,
right?
right,
Is
yeah.
TikTok behind this?
All these
stupid-
Gen Zs gluing themselves.
Yeah, what was happening?
Well, it's not to derail from this story, but similarly, you're talking about how like it's not a problem. Like before, it was not a problem. Like people didn't know until it was happening.
Yeah.
That happened. Recently, a guy dressed up as an old lady and threw a cake at the Mona Lisa.
This did happen this week.
Oh, that was a
But-
climate.
I mean, for climate change, great cause. Also, that would have been an insane problem. But the Mona Lisa's behind bulletproof glass. So they wiped
Right.
off the glass, and then the day it was the same
Right.
thing, 15-second thing.
But it made an impression. We're talking about it.
yeah.
But are we? Because my issue is, and I said this about the first one, and I said it when they were doing this one about the chicken thing, and I was like, on this podcast, I looked at the barrel and I said, I want to say what the issue is, and it was a genuine issue. Chickens were killed in a way they should not have been killed. It was a horrific way. It is banned the way it's done. Now, for the record, a lot of people, they had fired 200 people from that farm who had done it. That was already had happened. But in fairness to them, but it was a real issue. But the way that we protest is not through disrupting sporting events, because it doesn't work, and it just makes a bunch of people go, like, to me, when I see this, I just see a bunch of people going, climate change people. And
Yeah.
you're like, ugh, that's not good.
Right. Right.
That's why I don't like it.
Fuck these chickens. Like that's what people are saying. You know.
Yeah, immediately. Fuck these. What are you
Yeah.
talking about chickens? And it's like, no, it's actually a real issue. Like, we should hear about
So
the
what
issue.
is a better way? What I think there needs to be more coordinated attack.
We
I
talked
mean,
about this. Yes, 100%.
like, what if there are a million people across the world who at the same time smear art?
Love
in every
that.
museum across the country.
That's a great move.
Or
You mess with the money too. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't, like, if you just glue yourself, that's just like kind of an annoying thing. If you do like a more coordinated, like if you fuck with like the ticket sales or like
an ATM. We all glue ourselves to ATMs, and no one can take money out.
no one can take money out.
You
Yeah.
know, something.
I mean, the glue thing, like, because it takes 2 seconds to get somebody off, but if everyone did it once, it's going to take them a hot second to get
Right,
everybody off
right.
things. I think that's a good move. I've said for sporting events, because they keep doing the run-ins, and I'm like, if you wanted to disrupt a sporting event, do something noise-based.
Yeah.
If everybody in the crowd had an air horn, like 100 people throughout the stadium with an air horn, that's
Drown out the.
that's 20 minutes worth of a problem in that stadium.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
That's what we're thinking.
Chestnut checkers.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, chestnut checker. God, I hate that phrase so much.
I've never heard that phrase.
Oh, that's such a
TikTok?
It's a conspiracy. Yeah, it's a TikTok thing. It's such a conspiracy theorist thing. Every time like a politician someone likes does something bad, everybody's like, it's not bad. Chestnut checkers. Watch what happens next. It's always like it was used a lot for Trump when Trump would
I
like.
thought it was like 3D chess. Or,
Yeah, it's like the 3D
Same.
chess thing. It's the same thing of like the idea of like Trump just fell down some stairs and they're like,
Yeah.
Watch why.
Why?
Watch
Yeah.
why. He's playing chestnut checkers.
See, I didn't know that. I just thought it was a funny little cute phrase.
No,
Now,
it became
Chestnut
co-opted by like saw it a lot around Trump. Chestnut checkers he's playing.
4D chess is what I heard.
15 minutes to get this woman off. We will never stop talking about this issue as long as it keeps going because it is my favorite thing to talk about on this podcast.
50 minutes to get a woman off. I mean, that's actually.
And with that,
I'll
we
take
go to the
that.
next
I'll
story.
take
Let's
that.
go, Scott. Way to take us out strong. During this break in the action, if you have a story idea, send it to me. You can email it to me. You can message me on Instagram. You can message me on Twitter. You can message me on all the ways to send it to me. Send me ideas. I'll shout you out. I like it. I don't know everything. Send me ideas. All right, back to the show.
I thought you were.
And
asking
we're
for
back.
stuff.
No, I want stuff bad. So
Yeah.
we're back, and let's talk about the shirt because it'll bleed into a current event story.
Perfect.
Yeah, I do not wear shirts that say the name usually. Obviously, I have decades worth of shirts that have it. I grew up. It was the word I used. It was.
It's just.
The way I used to describe it was like it'd be like if one day you woke up and somebody was like, "Hey, hamburger is super offensive." You'd be like, "But that," and not just that, like hamburger's super offensive to women. You'd be like, "Okay, but I'm literally like I'm not even thinking of women when I say that word. Like I'm just literally trying to describe the thing I want to eat. Like I don't know. It's like I've never. It's the team.
Right,
That's
exactly.
just the
Yeah,
team
yeah,
name. Like
yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like I have no association with it, but." Over time, I've grown, I've learned, and at a certain point, 5 years before the actual name change, I was like, it's time. Time, boys. Time to make a call. But Dan Snyder's a crook and a horrible person, so I knew it was going to take a while, but I just personally started like I have a ton of gear of theirs now that either says like Washington or I try to I have like a shirt that says like Washington football. Like I try to trick it.
Right.
I look for things that hide it.
So what do you think about the Washington Football Club name, and then on the Commanders? And what about why not just call it the Skins? Would that be bad?
No, so the issue was we couldn't use red. They wouldn't use the word red.
The red part is problematic. I would say the most problematic. The red skin together.
Together, obviously an issue.
But Cincinnati Reds.
Yes.
Is that a problem?
Based around Red Sox.
Right.
As we
so if it
learned
was
last
the
week.
Washington Reds, the Washington Skins, on its own, those two words, they're fine.
Yes,
as far
but
as I can
now
tell.
they're forever associated with the OG name, right? Now they
Right.
come both with history.
Right.
So initially, Skins was something I threw out early, and everybody was like, but we all know what that means. And I was like, sure. But then it was like, all right, then during the name journey I've been on, because for 10 years, since I was a kid.
What was the first time you really like was it brought to your attention that this is
Well, the second Bullets changed to Wizards, and everybody was like, now if we're changing Bullets.
Yeah. The fact that you have two name changes in the city.
And Senators to Nationals. I've had 3.
Right. Wow.
Capitals are the only one left. I can't keep a team name. It's been
Bullets
brutal.
to Wizards. That was weird.
That was also part of my issue when they were like, we'll never change the name. And it was like, we've already been through it. Like, we can handle it.
Yeah.
We're capable. They like, oh, so yeah. So like the second Bullets to Wizards happened, we all were like, okay, feels like it's coming.
They should have done it in the same year, right? Just rip the Band-Aid.
Oh,
Bullets or Wizards.
Yep.
Skins are, but the Commanders. Do we like the Commanders?
So then,
I'm sorry.
spoiler alert. Yeah, I'll take you through the journey. So it was round Bullets to Wizards. I went, ugh. Yeah. All right, probably gonna be a problem. But then I sort of grew to justify it. I kind of grew to be like, I had even a joke I said on stage about it, where I'd be like, look, I think it's a great debate, but I will say this: ever since the Washington Bullets changed their name to the Washington Wizards, there's been no more gun violence in DC. So I do think it's important that we factor in team names.
Right.
Big pop,
Right.
great laugh. But then at a certain point, I really was like, oh, I see it. And so about 5 years ago was the moment that I was like, oh, it's not worth it anyway. It's just not worth it. It becomes at a certain point, you're like, wait, it's hurting some people's feelings and it's a name.
Right.
Who cares? Like, change it.
But there's all that debate, and I look. It's like for me.
Yeah,
it's like,
I lived in
whatever.
the debate.
I'm not a particular fan of the team, so it doesn't. No, I have no dog in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you want with the team name, right? But But you hear things. You hear that there are some Native Americans who are proud of it and they like the name. There are and I guess there are others who don't. And whose decision is it to make, right? I mean, like, it's white people owning the team,
Right.
always own the team, and like, who do you listen to? And if there are Native Americans who say like, no, we're actually proud of this, and they're upset about the change.
But so that was also part of the trick they would do on us, right?
Who I want to, like, I don't know the facts. I don't know like what.
Well, so what they would do is, intelligently, they would every time you went to a Washington football team game as a kid, they were always Native Americans outside. There was a small group that would protest, and there was usually a large group out front being like,
keep it going.
love to be here.
Love to be here. Really?
Love to be here. Yeah. Tribes.
So they basically paid people off to like.
I mean, they would basically fund these tribes.
Interesting.
A lot of tribes that were, associated with the team and were pumped about the name. And so you'd see that going in. You'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
What's the look at that. They're in. And then, as you get older, you're like, oh, they're just the ones that they bought. And meanwhile, these other ones who aren't getting money are all offended. We're just seeing, it's the select group. It's the...
Yeah.
So
it was part of like it was like a marketing tactic.
Oh yeah, they were always working on us. So as a fan, you were told, like, do you know how much money this team gives to Native American groups in the area, which was true. Give money to them. So and that was one of the saddest parts, knowing how Snyder works. When I saw the name change happening,
No more money to the tribe.
oh, I knew that he was gonna punish those tribes. Wow. Sure, he has.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's the worst. We've talked about him so much on this show. Including, by the way, he just got called into Congress, by the way. Just an update on that one. Yeah, him and...
Well, all the issues with the team, with the
Yeah.
cheerleaders.
And now Congress is not just investigating now, would like him to come on in. And, of course, cannot stress enough, no movement on actually getting him off the team. No movement.
Well, could this be like a Donald Sterling situation? Like, could
That's what was the hope. The hope was like, yeah, that's been the talk, was like, at what point
right.
is this man so evil we have to step in and force a sale?
Yeah.
And the answer is not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
You've not reached that point.
What are we waiting for? What is the wait?
Yeah.
So that was my thing, was I just sort of shifted, and then finally, in the middle of the pandemic, while I was going through so much, finally Snyder gives in and he's like, all right, fine. So then we go to Washington football team. I'm mocked out of the gates. Washington football team, what are we doing? Grew to love it.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, every single bar I went to, who are you a fan of? Oh, I'm a fan of the team.
Ohio State University.
I'm a fan of the football team. They'd be like, I'm like, Washington football. They'd be like, it's so fun. It was so fun to say, I'm a fan of the football team.
Yeah.
I grew to love that name. Then, of course, there were a bunch of names being floated around. Everybody was like, keep it. The football team was everybody's top pick that I talked to. Everybody loved it. We grew to love it. It was like, it's like...
But you can't merchandise it. What's the logo?
That was the issue. You can't merchandise it. That's what they kept telling us. And I was like, merchandise it. Put a W. We already figured this out. We're wearing stuff.
The Washingtons.
Yeah, we're wearing stuff. Like, just make the W cooler or whatever. But, like, we're in. Commanders, I mean, I looked at so many lists. It wasn't even top 10 on any list. I don't know where they got it. Clunky. We're talking 3 syllables.
3 syllables. What's the shortening of it?
Commies.
The commies.
Is what we're going to get called by everybody.
The Washington commies.
That's what everyone's going to call us.
The Manders.
The Manders. I mean, that's better.
Mandies.
The Mandies.
God, that's tough.
It's been tough. It's been a journey. What was There was. What was the one? I mean, there was. So I was very frustrated we couldn't use red, because red wolves, red tails. I thought those were really cool.
So they took red off the table.
They took
for
red
the
off
same reason that it was
to associate it.
Wow.
The word red's just associated. And what was it? There was a ton. I mean, like, I used to have the list, and it was like. There were so many like fun ones, and just like simple and just easy.
The Washington lobbyists. God. The Washington.
I was like, do a bit, do anything.
Swamp cats or something.
Yeah, there was stuff like that, and it was just like, it was so
swamp
fun.
rats.
Yeah, swamp stuff. I was like, that's fun. Which brings us to, baseball's been doing Pride Night for forever, since forever. I feel like this went very under the radar. A bunch of Tampa players did not play the other night because they wouldn't wear the Pride jerseys.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Did
And I
not
feel like
hear about
nobody
this.
caught it.
Wow.
The players were, because I want to make sure
can
we
I
give
get-
them. We want to give them their moment.
Can I guess here?
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Rays.
Mm-hmm.
Is it all white guys?
Off of names, yes.
Yeah, off of names.
There's one that's questionable.
Okay. I mean, guys, it's hard to even know who's on the Tampa Bay Rays these days.
I know.
Because
I would never have. I will say this as a fan of baseball, do not recognize most of these names.
I mean, I hope it's not like is Brett Phillips on the Rays? No,
Brett Phillips
he's a good dude.
he's the best.
Yeah.
Great laugh.
Like I want exactly the great
Best laugh in
like,
the game.
I'm trying to think of guys I like. I don't want to be selling. Okay, so who? Honestly can't think of. I'm guessing pitchers. I'm guessing just like random pitchers.
You won't get it. You won't get these names. I'm going to save you some time.
Okay,
Jason Adam,
don't know.
Jalen Beeks,
Oh, Jalen Beeks.
Brooks Raley,
Jeez.
Jeffrey Springs, Ryan Thompson.
Yeah, these are no names.
Faith-based decision, they said.
Faith-based decision.
Ridiculous. I felt that they should be just mentioned as the weakest of weak.
Yeah.
You can't just put on the jersey.
What does the jersey look like?
It has probably a little rainbow on it or
Yeah.
something.
Faith-based.
We're in
decision.
2022, Scott. And we're still
But that's the last bastion of homophobia, really.
I do agree.
I mean, it's like
It's
because
so-
you're right. Because because these guys are probably 22 to 24 to 25 years old, young guys. There's no. I mean, look, you and I are in our 30s. Like we the F word was still being thrown around when we were kids growing up, right? Like that
Yeah.
doesn't happen anymore. I don't think.
Yeah. I know.
It's a different era now, and like everyone's so gender fluid. Like you hear about the Gen Zs being
Yeah, it's like we're on to new issues.
We're on to-
We're on
yeah.
to new. Like when
We're
I
so
talk to a
past this.
conservative friend, we're on the new ones. It's
Right.
like we're past gay.
We're so past gay.
We're still on gay. That's why it caught me off guard. I felt like the article just like flew by really quick, and I was like, "Oh, whoa!"
Yeah.
In
But
2022,
it's because the only rationale for it is because of these like ultra right wing religious whatever,
yeah,
their denomination. And it's like they still have a problem with this thing, and it's in their church, it's in their belief. I mean, we have to just get rid of these churches. It's
Yeah.
just like what is who
I won't wear a
you know?
jersey with a church on it. That's my stance.
I mean, I won't even see Julio Iglesias live or Enrique Iglesias because that means church in English. Iglesia.
That's good for you. Well, good for you for knowing that.
Yeah.
I wish I took.
Iglesia.
I took Spanish. That was one of my. Pandemic moments.
Duolingo.
I tried to learn Hebrew.
Yeah.
That one went badly.
Oh, I'm still paying for the pro on Duolingo. I haven't used it in a year. But I get the renews. Hey, you've just been charged another $120. Great.
good.
Still not going to motivate me to open that app again.
Yep.
God, I have no time to learn Spanish. No tiempo para aprender español.
I mean, say what it will.
Sí,
Some
estoy
of them-
aprendiendo mi...
I barely remember, and I've worked on. It was so sad.
See, now the problem is, and this we can this topic on the pride, we can continue that, but to transition to the shop talk here, I'm getting people coming into my shop now, all over the world. A lot of French tourists, and I grew up taking French classes versus Spanish. I didn't take Spanish growing up.
Yeah.
In high school and middle school. So I have French people coming in, and I want to impress them and speak some French. And now I'm getting all mixed up because being in LA, Spanish, obviously. I mean, I'm learning Spanish, trying to. Now I'm like mixing up French and Spanish, and I can't. It's driving me nuts.
I find it so much easier just to be dumb American.
I might have
I
to
find
go
that
that
is an
route.
easier way to communicate to people. It's just be like, I don't got it, so let's find what we know
Right.
in common.
Esperanto.
And like, let's point. Versus when I try to do Spanish with somebody and I'm like, oh, poco.
Poquito.
And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. And I'm like, I don't have it. I'm sorry. I tried. I just don't like trying because I feel bad and I feel like it like makes it more uncomfortable to be like, ugh.
My problem is my accent is very good because I'm a good mimic. So I can do like, oh, je te dis en français pour les saisons en lycée. Oh, yeah. And then the French, and I'll say it to like the person who owns like the French cafe across from me. And then she'll go, oh, but she'll, as I respond in like this long French, and I go, lentement, s'il vous plaît, like a little slower.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm an imposter essentially.
Yeah, you mean both. All right, we're going to do quick hits. Then we're out of here. I'll be right back. Oh, hey there. During this break in the action, I just wanted to throw out there that this is the perfect opportunity to write a comment or subscribe, or if you're listening, you can just give us a rating and whatever you want. Just this is the moment where during this break, since we don't have a Patreon or anything, this is the moment to do something like that. It'd mean a lot. All right, back to the action. Wild time. And we're back. All right, these are quick stories.
Okay.
The competitive this Saudi-backed there's a golf competition league.
I've heard of this.
They have tried to get. We cover on the show. Follow up. Phil Mickelson considering going there, which basically ruined his life.
Right.
Was just how much people were like, "How dare you?" Well, they got the replacement. Dustin Johnson is going there. And everybody was like, why would he do this? He's going to get paid $125 million to play in this league.
That's why he's doing this.
That's why. He
Money
lost every
talks.
sponsor overnight. And everybody was like, why would he do this? And then it's
How many zeros? Yeah.
$125 million
dollars
to play golf over there.
And that's just guaranteed. You don't have to win.
Nothing. Just got to win. Yeah. And
don't
by the
have
way,
to-
he's going to win because he's one of the top golfers in the world. And now he's going to be against mostly not top golf, a very much a lighter field.
And are these other golfers like other Americans? Or are they like Saudi golfers?
They've gotten a couple others, but this was the first. They kept wanting their big one. They wanted a big fish.
Sure.
Mickelson was the one they wanted. We followed him saying, I think it'd be interesting, but also they seem bad. And then we were like, oh, you can't admit it. You can't admit, He got destroyed, so now he pulled back. They got Dustin Johnson, $125 million.
And this is the one married to Paulina Gretzky, right?
He might be. I don't even know that.
Is he the one married to Wayne Gretzky's daughter?
Check it out.
So that means...
So there's so much money already. And that's
Right.
also the thing where it's like, there's so much money already in some of these families. Dustin Johnson is his name.
Yes.
Wow.
Paulina Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky's daughter.
So now Gretzky's got to go to Saudi Arabia. Now he's dragging in the great one into this fracas.
The Mets, your baseball team,
Yes, my baseball team.
had a...
I own them.
I mean, listen.
This is a good team. This is a
great
fun team.
Great team. Very
But
jealous.
what happened? What's the story here?
You had a week of some weird
Weird
injuries.
stuff, though.
Weird injuries. 2 in 1 week.
Lindor in the door.
Yes, Lindor in the door. Player Francisco Lindor was unable to play for a day because he slammed his finger in the hotel door. A feat I didn't know was possible.
It's one of my biggest fears, though. And I'll say this: I have a fear about things getting slammed in doors or drawers. Mm-hmm. Finger, okay, but there's another appendage of the body that I have a more irrational fear about. I think you know where I'm going with this.
I fear you.
It's a finger-like digit.
I get you.
And for whatever reason, my entire life, I've had this irrational fear of it getting slammed in a drawer, or
That's so interesting.
like when would it be out?
I was scared because I'm like, I don't know how that would
How about
happen.
this one? You want to hear the bigger fear? Even more irrational? That same appendage somehow being skated over by an ice skate. Like,
Well, that's one of those once every 3 years in hockey, somebody gets nailed by a skate in like the neck or something,
Right.
and you're like, oh yeah, there's knives on the ice.
yeah, no, I'm terrified of ice skates. But like, when would one be naked on ice?
Oh, it's crazy.
In a position that an ice skate.
Do you have a fear?
It would never happen.
Do you have
but
a
I
fear
think
not to
about
get gross? But
It's
do you
like-
have a fear of the zipper? Because I've actually done that one.
You've done that one? Oh, well, after Something About Mary came out, I mean, that kind of implanted,
Yeah.
the national nightmare.
But that one's really that's
a real one.
That's a real one that can actually happen.
That's a real one, and
that one
I
hurts
have
like a son of a gun.
That's a bad one. And I have cut myself with a little, manscaping situation.
Sure,
that
sure,
has
sure,
happened
sure,
too.
sure.
And that is horrifying.
Oh yeah. Anytime
Because
you
the
see
amount of
blood in
that
that
comes
area,
out
Yeah.
for such a small, and they're small nicks, thank God.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of blood in those nicks. Okay, speaking of nicks, and not the New York Knicks, but I cut my finger. Here, you see this thumb? Talk about weird injuries. This ties into Lindor in the door and Scherzer with a dog bite.
Scherzer with a dog
to finish
bite.
your thought.
God, you're good.
I'm good on that. But This happened yesterday, Dan. Another reason why I was a little late today.
That's
because
real.
I was fixing my. This is real. You know how I did this?
No.
On my toe. I cut my thumb on my toe.
Ooh.
37 years old. This has never happened to me.
I didn't even know it's possible.
Didn't know it was possible. I was like taking off my pants, and my freaking toenail was so sharp, and I cut, and it fucking bled.
It's like that's solid. That's a solid cut.
It was like it cut skin off of my thumb.
Were you alone when it happened?
I was alone when it happened.
There is nothing to describe the feeling of hurting yourself stupidly when alone. Is one of like the greatest, saddest moments a human can go through. Just being alone, just like,
There's no sympathy.
Danny.
There's no
You just start
sympathy.
saying your own name.
Yeah.
Danny,
Danny.
you stupid.
I say your name. I say Danny.
You say Danny.
Danny, you idiot. But this is I feel simpatico with the Mets this week because of these weird injuries.
It's crazy.
It ties right into
Two in
it.
1 week I felt was very unique.
I went to Dodger Stadium the night that Lindor was benched because of that. So I didn't get to see Lindor play. Thank you very much, Frankie. Still haven't seen him play as a Met because that was my first game back since pre-pandemic times.
Ooh.
But that story in particular, did you happen to catch the New York Post headline?
No, I caught the owner's tweet.
What was it?
It was Lindor in the door.
In the okay. I hadn't seen any of the headlines either.
Yeah.
But I was definitely thinking of my own there.
Oh yeah, that was a Steve Cohen tweeted that out. The owner of the team, which felt mean.
But I think this
I felt uncalled for by the owner.
This could be like a Game of Thrones situation, like Hodor. This could be a thing where it's like,
oh, you could brand this
in the door.
Oh yeah,
in the door, finger in the door, finger in the door, finger in the door, Lindor, Francisco Lindor.
That's so funny.
So stupid.
But I think there's real branding there. There's a baseball player named Fidel Castro in the Reds minor league system.
Really?
Yeah. That's just a thing that they're just going to have to deal with if this player gets far enough along.
They're got people defecting from the Reds now.
Yeah.
To Cuba. They're going to leave the Red system and go to Cuba.
Go to Cuba. They're playing the Cuban League.
Because there's no Fidel in Cuba anymore.
But that's one of those names that you're like, they just got to be like, if this guy makes it, I mean, we're in big trouble.
Well, Fidel Castro apparently was a good ball player. The original Fidel.
Really?
He claimed that he got tryouts and he was that was.
But do we trust Fidel Castro?
I do personally.
Because I think also Putin is quite the hockey player.
Yes, and horseback rider.
And horseback rider, of course.
Equestrian. Trump, great baseball player as well. We know about that.
Of course. This is a classic.
It is classic when you think about it.
Classic. Yeah,
touting the sports, but if not for that rotator cuff injury.
They would have been there.
But every town has that guy too, right? Like every town has like the athlete who would have played for the Yankees if I didn't blow out my knee.
Of course.
Yeah,
we had a guy in my high school who got drafted. I didn't really know him. It was like my freshman year. He was a senior. Blew out his arm.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Yeah. But it's just, and they become like the Trumps of their town.
Yes.
Because
now they're just chasing
those glory days,
those
right?
glory days. And that's
Fidel Castro on the Reds. I gotta get his card. That card's gonna be a hot commodity now.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's good for the shop.
Yes. I'll stock exclusively Fidel Castro autograph cards.
I'm telling you, you gotta make some money there.
Castro jersey.
All right, let's come back and we'll wrap it up. Oh, hey, during this break in the action, I have nothing else to say. I just want to give us a break in the action. Thank you for watching. Keep subscribing, rating. All right, let's go back. And we're back after a little cool down from the cameras. Got a little too hot in here.
We got to.
Scott, it's always such a pleasure to have you.
Man,
You're so fun to talk to. Scary noises from the side.
The noise will no longer be scary.
Okay. Oof. You hear that beep beep. Always so fun talking to you. Always fun having you. You gotta come by more. Scott, tell the people what you're up to, but mainly tell us about the store.
That's really what I'm up to. I mean, I'm up to...
Which is a big deal. I mean, to my understanding of stores is that it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Have you ever worked retail?
I worked Blockbuster. And then I worked, that was really the main one.
Yeah.
And I worked at a post office, but I was front desk. So I don't know if that counts as retail.
Front desk at a post office? You were a cashier at a post office?
Yeah.
How old were you?
This was when I was in college.
Wow.
And I was like very, it was the NYU post office, but it was public, so anybody could come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. I got
a lot of people, huh?
It was just so crazy how good you, like how you start off and you're like, "Ugh, whatever. And by like week 3, I'm like, I'll tell you everything about, like, people would just come in with things. I'd be like, I'll tell you exactly how, with just eyeballing letters. People hand me letters, be like, nope, it's going to get sent back to you. Like, here's what you need to, like, you just so quickly learn.
Yeah. That's not going to go through the scanner.
Yeah.
That's a rigid. Yeah. No, that's
You want to hear,
I spent a lot of time at the post office.
you want to hear a cool comedy story that is going to make this podcast a little long, but it's kind of fun?
Yeah.
So I was working there. I'm a big old comedy guy,
Yeah.
as I'm sure you are.
Well,
You're so young.
my version of old comedy is
Yeah.
It's like
not old comedy.
Carlos Mencia.
Yes. And so I'm working there, and this woman comes in. She's a very old woman. And she goes, I need to deliver a package. And I was like, whoa. Such a specific voice. Never, like, such specific. She goes, I need a package delivered. And she looked at me, she goes, not you. I want my main guy. And like, she wanted the boss. Boss comes out, talks to her. I listened to her talk for 15 minutes. She leaves. And I was like, that is wild. Her voice. She sounds like Buddy Hackett. And he was like, that's his sister.
No way.
And she would come in every month and she would tell jokes because she grew to like me. And so it was just like hearing Buddy Hackett tell a joke. She'd be like, okay, a guy comes down in his door. It was so cool.
Buddy Hackett's sister.
Sister, just telling jokes.
She can't be with us anymore, huh?
No chance. She was so old, but she was so funny and just like had the voice too.
Wow.
It was wild.
That voice.
And it's like, you work those jobs and sometimes it's like, obviously a lot of, it goes without saying, some rough days at the post office. But man, that you leave and you're like, yeah, but that was pretty fucking cool.
Well, dude, I got to say, and this is something that we can both now bond over as being comedians and working in this entertainment world. Like you say, you do a corporate gig, you go host a conference, or you do something, and you do a podcast. Like, there's very little actual interaction with people, and there's very little tangibility to the money you make.
Yes.
You get paid to do a thing, and you're like, I'm doing stand-up. This is not work for me. I love this.
Yep.
Right? I love being on stage. I'm getting paid this money. I don't even feel like I deserve it.
Right.
Right? Like, and then also, Larry the Cable Guy gets $250,000 performing at a state fair. You get $2,000 for the thing, and it's like, we're doing the same thing. Why
Right.
is he worth $250K?
Right.
Like, that whole element of
It's very
of
hard
compensation doesn't make sense because it's literally the same thing. You're on a stage holding a microphone.
Yep.
So nothing's rational about it, really, right? Working retail, working at a cashier when you're exchanging goods
Yes.
for money, and like, oh, this makes sense. This stamp cost 38 cents or whatever.
Yeah.
This is, I'm selling the shirt for $40. You're giving me $40. There's something very real and tangible about that exchange, and that's what I'm getting now, running my shop, my clothing store, and I love it. I love actually physically making money, earning it,
Yeah.
feeling like I'm earning it, because I feel like I'm an imposter. Like, getting paid to do a podcast, like, what? I'm getting paid to talk to a microphone. It doesn't make sense. But selling clothing makes sense. I bought it.
Right.
I had to pay money for it. Now I'm reselling it. So I love the tangible physical part of it. I love the interaction of it, meeting people. You met Buddy Hackett's sister. I've met so many weird, interesting people.
Yeah.
I've met Aaron Wiggins, Oklahoma City Thunder rookie guard, University of Maryland, 2nd round pick.
That's right.
Just drafted last year. He's in my shop one day. I'm like, oh man, you visiting in town? He's like, yeah, I'm actually playing the Clippers tonight. I was like, really? I'm like, what's your name? And I'm like Googling. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, Maryland, huh?
Yeah.
Go Terps. And I'm like, I got some Maryland. So like, he bought like $500 worth of stuff. It was so awesome. I hooked him up. Cool. He's a big McNabb fan.
That's awesome.
I gave him like these Family Guy shirts he loved.
So
like,
crazy he opened with the information, because I'm always so like secretive about what I do, and I always assume most people are. And then it's like so crazy because there's no reason for him to tell you that. And how quickly he offered that information.
But just such a nice dude, and just we had a great conversation. I mean, I've met these players on the Los Angeles Guiltinis, which is the professional rugby team we have here. But you didn't even know we have a rugby team.
I sure didn't.
They play in the Coliseum.
In the Coliseum?
This is legit. They travel around. They were in like Utah and Dallas. They're like the best team too.
Wow.
And there's guy Billy Meeks and Luke Walton, I think. These two guys have come in and shop with me, and these guys are world-class athletes, played for 12 years professionally, rugby all over the world. I met the CEO of famousbirthdays.com, the only website, famousbirthdays.com. He's like, yeah, I bootstrapped this company 20 years. It's me and like 3 employees, and it's just crazy how You meet entrepreneurs. I love it. I'm just having a blast, and I'm selling vintage clothes, which I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, and mainly sports based.
It's a lot of sports stuff. Right now, I have band tees. You know, people come in and they think it's just sports. Yeah. I'm eventually probably going to transition to just sports.
Okay.
Because it's what I love, and it's what I personally collect.
Show some of the stuff.
I brought some stuff here, man, from the sports realm. But those listening and those watching, if you want to come, I have other things besides sports. But this is a sports podcast, so.
This is a sports podcast, and you know, we have a lot of people who listen to this show who love sports. We have a lot of people who listen to the show who don't love sports, where this is their way in. But either way, you can wear cool stuff.
Either way, you can wear cool stuff, and that T-shirt's a really cool 92 Redskins, and that came 92. Dead stock, which means never been worn, never washed, had the stickers and tags still on it.
So crazy. Yes,
it's been in storage for.
I kept the sticker on, and then you yelled at me when you were like, "What are you doing?"
Well, when you wear it, you can take the sticker off. So how about this one? So I'm a big baseball guy. Let's start with Enron Field opening day. Astros, Phillies, 2000. You know the story of Enron, right?
I do know. Yeah.
So
Enron Field.
For those who are too young to know about Enron, this was one of the biggest scandals of this millennium.
No, do you know about Enron?
I do, yes.
Okay. Yes.
I thought so.
But they were the sponsors of the field where the Houston Astros played.
Wow.
Until the scandal, the accounting scandal that brought them down, and they're on their Minute Maid Park or whatever they've changed it to. So the fact that like Enron, and by the way, early tech as a genre is becoming like a huge thing in the vintage world. Because there are a lot of kids now growing up. If you're like 20 years old now, like you want an AOL shirt.
I'm just thinking AOL.
You know, Microsoft. Yeah, like early like .com shirts.
That little yellow running man.
Yes, the running man is like those shirts are like hundreds of dollars now.
Yeah.
So like Enron is such a great turn of the century name that's becoming a big shirt. I'm a big Nomar guy. Nomar, even though I grew up a Mets fan, Nomar was my guy. How about this Manny and Nomar Red Sox shirt from, I believe. The copyright is 2004.
If you don't know sports, these are two iconic Red Sox players. Nomar being somebody who just like, because he started with Red Sox guy, he was like just a guy. Like
best. The
day he got traded, a lot of Red Sox fans lost, just couldn't even deal with it.
I was one of those fans. And what's sad about it, it was the summer of 2004 when he got traded. This shirt is dated 2004. The Red Sox won the World Series this year, but Nomar was not on that team that Scott celebrated the first World Series in 86 years for the Red Sox, even though he was a part of, he helped get them there. So, like, the fact that the shirt probably came out in the spring of 04.
Oh, that's so cool.
With Manny and Nomar, but then by the end of that year, he was gone. He was a Cub. A Cub.
Another
and then a
team
Dodger.
That couldn't win.
I know. So I love that shirt. Mets fan, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Check this out. Mojo Rising. 99 Mets. These were my Mets. Olerud, Alfonso, Ordonez, Raman Ventura. The infield of dreams, they called them. They were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Do you remember this issue? I do. The infield of dreams was the headline. So when I found this shirt, I was like, you kidding me? It's too bad it's a double XL. It's a little big. But these are my personals. These are not for sale in the shop.
Oh, wow.
These are shirts that I'm keeping.
I love that.
Keeping for me. These stay in the closet. 97 All-Star Game much?
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, how old were you in 97?
97, I'm 10.
I was bar mitzvah in 97. So this is my coming of age year. Look at this. You weren't alive yet?
I know.
Baseball Weekly. You don't remember Baseball Weekly probably. This is a newspaper that came in my mailbox every week. Hence the name, Baseball Weekly. Look at these names, Danny.
Ugh.
Roberto Alomar, Tino, Bags, Biggio, the Killer Bees.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any like great stories.
There's your Ripken. There's your guy.
Cal Ripken Jr., the Iron Man, wouldn't played a gazillion games in a row, refused to come out.
How about the Mariners? Like, we forget how good the Mariners were with A-Rod and Griffey.
A-Rod. Oh, that's a young A-Rod. Check out that A-Rod. Young A-Rod. Baby.
I don't think they called him A-Rod back then. Like, A-Rod came later. Like, he had to earn that name.
I wonder if, because Ivan Rodriguez on the bottom, I don't think he was yet Pudge.
Yeah. Ivan, Brady Anderson, dude. Brady Anderson, the year he hit 50 home runs. Piazza on the Dodgers, like this last year, I think, on the Dodgers. Tony Gwynn, R.I.P. Kenny Lofton, just a great player of the 90s that doesn't get enough cred. Larry Walker, recently in the Hall of Fame. Look at the Hall of Famers here. You have Alomar, 1, 2, 3. Ken Cam, no, but he died, too. Oh, my God, this is an error. It doesn't have his name. I'm just noticing this. Ken Kemeny's name is missing on the shirt.
Whoa.
This is a rare error version. But
Whoa.
Bobby Cox and
What does that mean for us? What does that mean for you?
It means it's definitely staying in my collection now.
Ooh.
I collect rarities too. That's another thing. I didn't bring.
I know those are big. I know that in the world of
Beanie
collectibles.
Babies.
Yeah, well, just anything. If there's
Yeah.
an error.
Exactly.
Do you watch that insane documentary?
Take a look at this.
Oh, the Dream Team.
The Dream Team, and this is a bootleg. Okay, I want to show you why this is a bootleg. This is the tag here. This is like not. This is a Screen Stars tag. This is like just a generic brand of shirt that anybody could buy back then, blanks and print on. The actual design of this is a Nutmeg Mills design that was like a big sports company. So I'm bringing some inside information here.
And by the way, those of you listening to the audio, I do want to say, go to the YouTube and watch this section at least, because you're going to see some cool stuff. And if you are listening to the audio, hey, listen, I guess you could, I'm sorry for the last couple of minutes, but I stand by what we did here.
There's a big tell on this shirt. There's a couple big tells. I mean, look at Chris Mullen, for example. That does not quite look like Chris Mullen.
Yeah. Chris Mullen was the
whitest of white.
Yes, like Larry Bird was, because there's 3 white guys on that
There's
team.
Larry Bird there, Stockton
And Larry Bird.
But look at the design on Michael Jordan, okay? The goatee.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see this Michael Jordan goatee? This is like bizarro.
It's
Jordan.
so crazy that they would do the worst job on any of them on Michael Jordan. Like, it feels like if we're going to really focus in on our artwork, let's do it on Jordan. Like, let's really get him right.
It's like a bizarro world Jordan, like the evil Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this shirt.
Anyways.
I love this shirt.
So come to the
Dream
shop.
Team stuff.
You get stuff like that. It's so cool.
Well, stuff specific like this is again me.
Stuff
That's for
like
me.
it.
Like it.
Like
Like it.
that.
Like it. Like it.
Go check out the store.
2525 Main Street, Santa Monica.
No, anything you'd like to plug?
No.
Okay. Love that. And for me, I plugged that special so many times on here. I'll take it easy.
Wedding. Plug your wedding.
I got a wedding, but I'm around. I mean, I'm doing shows. I'm doing shows around LA. Post wedding, I'll be traveling, but right now there's nothing. Don't worry about it. Right now, we don't need to worry about plugs. And now we end on one final thing. This is called 3 Shots at Glory.
Oh my gosh.
Scott, you will get 3 shots from the couch to the hoop. Only one guest has hit so far, Jessica Michelle Singleton.
Really?
This is your
It
opportunity.
seems like too easy. It's one of those things where it's like a amusement park, right? Where they make it seem so easy.
It's hard. It's
But
hard.
now I'm realizing why it's so hard. This is a very deceivingly light ball here.
Yes.
There's not a lot of mass or density to this.
But I like how much you're taking it in. This is good to see.
taking it in.
Some people shoot very fast.
I mean, look, so I sit. I'm
Yep,
from the
gotta
couch
sit.
sitting. Okay. I went to the John Starks basketball camp. Okay,
Okay, that's
so
good to
there's
know.
the Swan. There's the Swan.
Okay,
Oh,
a
man.
lot of things to like, though. First shot, a little off, but a lot of things to like.
Off. I'm adjusting for the wind. Oh my god!
All right, second shot, extremely close. Final shot. This is the moment.
Oh god! This is hard.
And with that,
And with that,
we'll see you next week.
With that, I'm going to sit in the couch for like 16 hours just trying to sink this thing.
You're a #1 fan, so you know the stats. Heard all the pundits talking, so you know enough of that. Maybe it's time to hear some crazy folks chat about all the other stuff that's behind the net. But maybe you don't care about playing ball, and you want to hear the gossip whether big or small. Maybe it's time to hear some funny folks talk about what goes on when the batter don't walk. Maybe you'd like to hear a little more. Maybe you don't even care about sports. Either way, go on and buckle up your shorts. Cause this is everything but the scores with Danny Jollis. Yeah, doggity.